Alrighty, so this is a very, very different podcast for the Grow Pair guys today. We are doing an online um, podcast, and yeah, today we're going to actually be talking about a product called Xero Accounting, and we've got an expert in. Every now and again, the world throws out a product which is life changing, and this is one of them. I've promised all my viewers that I won't punt products unless I actually believe in them. And I've seen Xero and I've heard about it and I've got clients that use it. And when this was approached to me going, hey, let's talk about Xero, I was just thumbs up and stoked. So, Simon Magner, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Desmond. Appreciate you having me on here and calling me an expert. I suppose we all live in that world of thinking like I'm not quite an expert, but I guess I've been working on this long enough to call myself an expert.
Yeah, you know what? I was chatting with a marketing friend of mine the other day, and she was saying, you know what? As soon as you're on a podcast, you're a subject matter expert. So
I'll claim that then.
it works. Yeah, it works quite well. Um, Simon, your company is Iridium Business Solutions, and you are a chartered accountant. And I look at that, and that normally just goes numbers. I'm dyslexic, so numbers are great for me. Not really, but it's this business that just makes businesses run. So what is your guys offering? What do you guys do as a business? What's your journey so far? How did you start? Let's begin
Yeah,
there, and then we'll
let's
get into Xero.
summarize it all into one quick thing. So I
Yeah.
mean, like you said, I'm a chartered accountant, so that's what I studied, and that's the qualification I got. And then I decided I really like technology. I'm probably not a good employee. I probably make a better person who's responsible for stuff and getting things done. So I've always liked the idea of running my own business, and I thought I've spent so long getting this qualification, I better do something with it a bit and see how it could go. So I quit my job and I started working, and I came across Xero pretty soon after that, and I was chatting to my wife and she said, like, you can try this for a bit. If it doesn't work out, you need to get a real job that actually pays a salary because, we're married now, we've got rent to pay and things to look after, and that was 12 years ago when I, started this journey. And fortunately it worked out. So I kind of had this, I think there was a perfect kind of alignment between accounting and tech, about 10, 15 years ago, where the internet started becoming more prevalent around the world. People started hosting more products on the web. The idea of using cloud-based products wasn't as scary, and people started understanding that you can do things better. So technology and accounting kind of like came together at that point. And what was really cool was we got to chat to all these people who were launching new products. Was when Xero launched, one of the big things they did was they had an open API, and for the non-techie people, it basically means they built a product that you could get data out of and push data in without having to get approval from anyone else. And you can build other products around their product. So that became quite cool. So it meant a whole lot of other companies started making products that were solving problems. So you run a hairdresser, you need a booking system, you need a billing system. You're running a warehouse, you need a system that keeps all your stock and talks to your e-commerce, and all these different products were started to get built. And that ecosystem just kept going. And as people were building products, they needed to talk to an accountant who kind of understood what was going on to say, what should I build next? So, the starting point was actually really cool because most of our time was talking to tech founders who were going, I want to build this product. What should I do? So it was really cool that myself and my brother who ran the business, we got to talk to all these founders and share our ideas around what would be a nice thing to build. And when they built something that we didn't like, we'd phone them up and say, no, it does not work. Fix it. So that was really cool because when you're talking to a product that's been going for 20 years, you don't get to talk to the founder or the head tech, around how to build it. Their product life cycle is built up. They know what they're doing. But because this was super early on and guys were trying to get product market fit and, proof of concept, it was really fun. So some days I was a techie, other days I was an accountant. And I think that's what made it fun and exciting. And that's why I'm definitely not a traditional accountant as, most people would think of.
Mm. Yeah, it's interesting. So I've got a bunch of mates also in that kind of field, and when this was approached to me, I reached out to a few of them and said, hey, especially guys in Oz, because I think that
Yeah.
Xero's from Oz, if I'm correct.
New Zealand.
And that's from New Zealand. Okay. Same WhatsApp group almost.
What's across the pond?
And they sort of popped up when I sent out sort of my information gathering, and they were like, oh man, yeah. And I've got a couple of mates who have actually worked on these attached programs,
Yeah.
and they said the ease of use and the way that the guys are so open to making life easier for everybody was life changing, because they normally deal with people with these super complicated processes, and you want to make one tiny change and now it's a nightmare and you've got to get approvals from 57 people, and the Xero guys were just good and open and available, which is, I think, very helpful.
They've actually built an entire website, if you go online, where they tell you how to talk to their product. And if you need to reach out to them, they'll tell you what to do, how to do it. And they've built an entire app ecosystem website linked to their main page, where you can go there and see what other people have done. And they almost encourage people to build their businesses off the back of that environment that they've created, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's actually incredible. You guys are using Xero in terms of how is Xero helping your clients, the end user, the business guy, the small businessman who's opened his company, has approached you to say, hey, I need an accountant. You guys say, hey, use Xero.
Yep.
How is this helping small businesses, and what are the maybe 2 or 3 key points that really just kick butt here?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about how accounting always used to be in the past, like I'm talking back in the days when it was on desktop computers, business owners did not have access to the accounting. You ran your business, you invoiced your clients, you paid your suppliers, and you took all that paperwork and you put it in a box, if you're old school, and you drove it down the road to the accountant's office and you box dropped and you walked out the door and said, make it right. And in some cases, you just emailed your bank statements and said, pay my VAT, So the kind of the communication between a business owner and their accountant was quite limited. And most of it was like compliance based. Just keep SARS away from me. I'm scared. What Xero's kind of done is they've made one system that the business owner can access, invoice his clients, check who owes him money, manage his statements, and the accountant logs into the identical same system, and he fixes up the back end stuff and tidies it up. So it's a single source of truth, which is really powerful, because when people look at it, they go, oh, I'm paying for a new product. You're like, you never had a billing system. You used Excel and, Word documents to invoice people. You had no visibility on who owed you money, and you never knew how much money you had spent. Now you've got one system where everything's in there and it's in real time. Your bank data is coming in, your invoices are going in, at any point in the month. If you're organized, you know exactly where you're at.
Yeah. So that's a huge thing I work in a small business. My brother and myself, also family run, and that cash flow is so important to know, and like you say, on a daily basis. And you have a big month maybe, and your sales guys are out and they out doing their thing, and now all of a sudden you've got 10 big orders and you've outlaid money to everybody, and you're going, I've got this 11th order, but where's the money? Who owes me now? Who owes me 30 days? Who owes me, or who hasn't paid? Do we need to make phone calls to make sure it's all right? Having that information, it's life changing at the end of the day.
100% agreed. And like little things like, does anyone love following up on debtors? No, we all don't enjoy it. It's awkward. It's kind of, you want to ignore it and you just hope they pay you. Something as simple as you click a button in the back end of Xero and it automatically reminds your client. They send an email and it sounds all nice and polite. Hey guys, it's Desmond. Sorry if I'm, following up too much. Maybe you paid me already and I missed the payment. If you haven't, can you sort it out? And that you can schedule those reminders. Suddenly it's something you didn't really want to do. And the next day after that automatic reminder goes out to your clients, money hits your bank and you're like, woohoo, I've got cash again. And you didn't really do that much. You just let the system do its job. and people start paying you, because the reality is you pay people who ask you to pay them. And when you're running tight for cash, you pay the oaks who don't ask you to pay them. Because that's what human nature is. The guys who irritate you or kind of are persistent, you go, I want him to go. Let me just pay that guy. And then I'll try but everyone's managing their own cash flow. And I don't think people forget that sometimes. You're trying to get your customers to pay. Your customers are trying to get their customers to pay. And it's this whole ecosystem of making sure that people pay. And at some point when the cash flow gets tight, someone's going to get shortchanged. If you're running a good business, you hope to be not that person who gets paid last.
No, absolutely. You mentioned VAT earlier on, and for all the business owners that I know, every 2 months, for a lot of them, it's VAT, and you've now sitting there sickling, and or maybe sickling because now you've used your VAT money to pay Paul to get more stocks, so you can make more deals or whatever else. I'm assuming that Xero's got some cool kind of system around VAT where you can sort of track what you're owing on a like a monthly basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing a real-time calculation for you of your VAT. What I like to do in Xero is you can actually tag accounts in your ledger, and you can ask them to show on the dashboard of Xero when you log in. So when I log into my client's accounts, it shows me my bank balance on the left, and on the right-hand side, I have my VAT account. So I know in real time, based on the invoices I've issued and their expenses I've recorded, I know how much money I owe SARS. So that's really quick for me to know what's going on. Remember, we normally invoice people first, and then we get all the expenses recorded later. So at any point in time, your number is always going to be the highest it should be. And then if you start getting documents and then paying, you should reduce it down. And that is kind of a simple thing. You pay for things, you collect money, and the net effect of what you charge minus what you pay, that's what you got to settle with SARS. So it is a simple calculation. It shouldn't come as a surprise for people because the numbers are there. And to your case, if you've got a 2-month cycle, which is what most people have, unless you're running a 30 million rand business and you've moved to monthly cycle, that you've got January and February, and at the end of March, you need to settle. So you've had that cash flow from January and from February for a bit, and now you've collected hopefully your customers a little bit in March. You should be good to pay. So what some people like to do is when they get to the end of January, they know the amount they owe. So if it's 20 or 30,000 rand, and they open up a savings account and they put the 20 or 30 grand in the savings account, and they're going, that's not my money. It's SARS's money, and if I really am tight, I can borrow it, but then I've got to know that it's on me if I don't get the money back in. And then they can do the same in February and put the money aside, and they're getting interest. So you're benefiting. It's not your money, but you still get a bit of interest. And then when it comes to the end of March, sure, you can pay on the last working day of the month. There's no problem with paying right at the end. I don't see the reason why you should pay on the 1st of March because I've got 30 days, and hopefully by the end of March, things are looking good and I settle with SARS. Because remember, if you don't pay SARS when you're supposed to pay them, they fine you 10%. So there's no point in keeping that money in your bank for another 2 days and getting 30 rand in interest when you're going to get fined 3,000 rand in penalties.
Yeah. It's a big it's a big thing. You talk about. I'm actually so glad you said Oaks are putting money aside because that's what when I joined my brother's company and we started doing the thing that we're doing. I said to him, "Yo, man, we need to put a couple of savings accounts where we can move the money so we know, okay, that goes there." And as that number changes, you can take money out or, like you say, loan it to yourself, for, whatever you need to do if there's like some short-term, expense or something. Capturing those expenses. So you say it's running a real-time analysis on VAT. Capturing expenses. What's the process with Xero?
Yes, I mean, like any accounting system, that the best way to do things is to record based on an invoice basis. So if your marketing consultant gives an invoice on the 6th of March and it's dated the 6th of March, you should record that invoice in your accounting system. So with Xero, you can either upload it into the program, use HubDoc, which is linked to it, which is a tool to extract the data. but basically you should record the invoice in the system. And then when you pay your supplier, which may be at the end of the month, it may be the following month, the payment of a supplier should not be the date that you recorded in your system. Because what I'm really talking to, and I don't want to get over technical, is the accrual basis of accounting, which says whatever the date of the invoice, that's when the number should be in your numbers. And the cash basis says when it comes in and out of my bank, that's when I record it. Now, most lazy accountants or business owners, they just ignore the invoices. And to my earlier example of, giving it to your accountant a month end, the bank statement, they just record everything off the bank statement. And that's not really true, because you know what it's like running a business. You issue a whole lot of invoices, half of them pay you in March, the other half pay you in April. Does that mean you had a bad March? No, it just means you weren't great at collecting the money. So you always want to know the expenses that are linked to the revenue you did in each month, and you're matching things off nicely. So if you've got a system, the system will only be as good as you recording the data. So if you organized and whenever you get invoices, you record them in the system. And when you pay for things cash off the bank, you record it in the system. That's when you're going to get the accurate real-time data. Hopefully you're running a great business and there's so much going on, you don't have time to record any of that. And that's when you phone someone like me and say, Simon, I love recording podcasts and doing what I do, but I just don't have time to do anything else. Can you do all the heavy lifting for me? And tell me at the end of the month what I owe. So that's where most Xero accountants or people who use Xero from an accounting firm point of view plug in. They're going, when the point comes where you've got less time on your hands than you need to do what you're doing, and you can make more money doing what you're really good at, outsource that to another party, and use your time. And it's a really easy calculation to do. I always ask business owners, how much are you worth per hour? And everyone's got a big number. I'm a $5,000 an hour. And I go, no. What do you charge people per hour when you do your work? And if they come back and say $1,000 an hour, that's what I'm billing people. Then I go, how many hours does it take you to get on top of your numbers every month? And if someone goes, well, flip, it's every second Saturday for 5 hours, plus 15 hours a month. Then the calculation's easy. It's 15,000 Rand a month is the effective lost revenue, by you doing this. So any number I charge you less than that should be a deal for you, because you're saving money. Good point. But only if you back yourself to use that time to go and get more money for your business, or if your Saturdays are your family time, or, like recover time because you work so hard during the week.
Oh yeah, no, that time spent with the wife and kids, is that can be worth its weight in gold, yeah. Because you've worked Monday to Friday, you've done your bit, you maybe done some late nights. Now Saturday you must sit and fight with your accountant because your Excel spreadsheet stopped working or something,
Yeah.
Not worth
and
it.
Spreadsheets are terrible because I've seen people build their entire business in a spreadsheet. Like really smart guys. It's normally the engineers, to be honest, who do it. And then you sit up with the engineer and go, what if the formula didn't work? Yeah, and I'd be in trouble. Yeah. And then you go to the spreadsheet and it doesn't take long to find the formula error. And then they're like, no, it wasn't such a good month. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we're going to move. Let's move to a system. And that's why systems do this for you really easily. We're not supposed to be living in Excel spreadsheets when you're running an operation that's going. I've got no problem if you've got 5 things going on. It's very easy to track in a spreadsheet. But as soon as you kick over to any reasonable kind of volume, you need a system. You need an easy way to track it. And Xero is not scary. You log into Xero, you kind of feel like you're in, like the old Facebook. It's kind of clean, pretty colors, drop-down menus. I think they've spent a lot of time in the UI UX to make it feel simple. And I knew that it was an easy system when I had one of my clients was a plumber, and he phoned me up and said, hey, I've got my accounting. I'm on top of it. And he's like, I'll do the coding now. So they'd made a system that was so easy that he felt he could do it. And he often did it from his cell phone while he was between appointments. He would just click and record a few things, kick out invoices. So I think that's a scary thought, though, because what am I saying is you've made accounting easy, which means a lot of accountants are now going to turn around and go, that's my job. Why are you taking away my job and giving it to the business owner? And the right response is, I'm taking away the work we didn't really want to do. Let's be honest. It was the low level kind of work. And we're
Mm.
giving it to the business owner to speed up that process so that you can spend more money adding or more time adding value to that business owner and actually saying him, hey, Desmond, how about this? Or how can we make more money next month for your business? Or how do we improve? Which are the right questions to have, not I spent 9 hours, processing your bank.
Mm, mm. Yeah, that's the important thing. Is I look at, I mean, accountants are an integral part in terms of advice, and as a business owner, you need to know. I mean, you guys have got a complicated job in terms you have to know the law, you have to know. I want to say loopholes, but maybe that's the wrong way because people take it the wrong way. You know,
Tax
um,
methods.
yes, yeah, 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 and it's this balance between doing the work and then being able to be clever about how you run your business. And the accountant that I use, they give me advice where they say, "Hey, you guys are doing big capex purchase this month. Maybe you should look at financing it rather than spending the cash." And then they'll
Yes.
come back with all the maths around it and go, well, actually, yes, there's interest on the finance, or the rent to own or whatever it is, but here's how it's going to benefit you in terms of writing it off, being an operating cost. Now, if your accountant's sitting tearing through spreadsheets and tearing through bank statements, they're not thinking about the other things that you should be knowing about.
100%. And that's where we need to get to. So every time, I want to say a newspaper, but an online website, because who reads newspapers these days anymore? But every time news comes out of the 10 jobs most likely to disappear in the next few years, accountants are always right at the top of the list. It's the accountants and the bookkeepers, they're always right at the top there. And what they're actually trying to say is the functions that those people perform right now in a standard role should not exist in 5 years' time, because systems can automate a lot of what they are doing and the processes can be made faster. So because it can be made faster, you shouldn't be having a full-time job doing that function anymore.
Yeah.
Whenever someone talks about programs and systems, they start throwing in AI. AI is going to do everything. What they don't realize is if anyone's played with a chat GPT or any of those tools, they're not always right. That they talk with absolute certainty, and you go and ask ChatGPT something now, it'll say, this is what you do. And you go, I think you could be wrong because this is what happens. And they go, okay, yeah, I'm wrong. This is right. So they're not always perfect. And you need someone to interpret that. So I think all these tools that are great out there, you need someone to interpret the tools, to interpret the data. And I think that's where the accountant role should be shifting. Getting through the basic stuff really fast, not having to charge much for that. But to your point, having the great conversations. Was you really happy to pay your accountant for a phone call? Should I do this or should I do that? That's valuable.
Absolutely.
You don't place a lot of value in knowing your VAT return's done and that your payroll's, paid. It has to be done. You got to tick a box, but you get much more excited saying, how do I increase my GP? Or how do I make more money for my family holiday at the end of the year? Or should I pay myself a dividend or a bonus? Those are good questions to have.
Absolutely.
Should I have a family trust that I distribute to? Should I have a holding company? Those are great questions to have. And I think systems allow you to do that. If you organize and things work well, you can then move ahead of the noise and get into the great part of discussing making more money, helping your family grow. And if we're honest, this country just needs more jobs created. If you feel like you're winning in your job, you might be encouraged to hire another person, and every person you hire is probably going to knock on to 3 or 4 people in their family that have more money. That's a win for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think job creation is is huge. I look at my life, I do a lot of the admin for my business and I also do the sales. So
Mm.
when the admin is not up to date, the sales aren't happening because the admin has to happen. That
Yeah.
10% that SARS will tack on if you're not right. You go, whoa, hold on. That's, zero is not a loss. So we lose 10% or we don't lose 10%. We'd rather not lose 10%. And
Uh,
yeah, if you've got something that's automated and some AI in the background helping, and reducing the murk, that murky mud almost, that frees you up it pushes you into a higher level. Now you able to go sell more, or able to do the meetings, able to go on a podcast to do marketing for your business or whatever it is. And, and all of a sudden now you're smiling because, hey, the money's coming in, you're creating more jobs, you're impacting more families, our country gets better, and that's what we all want at the end of the day.
I think so. I mean, the only thing I've got to deal with now is my kids said to me, Dad, I want to be like you when I grow up. And I said, why do you want to be like me? They said, no, Dad, you get to play paddle and you play golf and you talk to people, and you come watch me at my athletics meet at 2:00. Yeah, you don't really do work, do you? I'm like, no, there's a lot of work going on. You just don't see it. So I think I've set my kids up for like lofty expectations, because there's a lot of grind that happens in business, but when you run your own business, it doesn't always happen between 8 and 5, the grind. It's a lot of it happens behind the scenes when people aren't looking, and you do that for the ability to have the flexibility to go and watch your kids swim in a gala or play a cricket game or a rugby game. So it's a life kind of style decision you've got to make.
Yeah, I love chatting to people. They go, I want to own my own business because I want to schedule my own time. No boss, what I want to. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you've obviously never run a business because for myself, I was up at 4:30 this morning. Invoices were going out at 4:45. Last night, I was up till 11 working. There's stuff that happens. Now, sure, I was able to take a little bit of time in the middle of my day to do some other stuff, but those hours get worked. Your clients become your boss. That's how it is.
Yeah, and I think not everyone's cut out to run their own business. Not everyone's motivated by doing it. It should never be the goal for everyone. Some people love having the guarantee of a salary every month that comes in, and knowing that when I leave at Friday at 4:00, I put my computer in the corner and I don't think about it until 8:00 on Monday morning. That's great. When you run your own business, that's not the reality. So you get some wins, but you also got to deal with those things. And every business owner is always worried about cash flow, like you said earlier, and they're worried about who owes me money, what triggers do I need to pull when I'm in trouble, when I know I'm in a cash flow crunch, what can't I do? I think people got really good, during the dark days of COVID at rationalizing expenditure, because they started looking at all those expenses they incurred and said, do I really need that? Most of us signed up for too many software subscriptions, and you started going through this list and you're like, what is that product? Why do I need 10 licenses for that with my team of 4? And I think guys got really good at doing that. And it's actually a great practice to do on an annual basis. Look at all the expenses you spend money on and make a judgment call. Do I need that for the next year ahead? Am I actually using those 3 licenses of ChatGPT Pro that let me do unlimited queries? No, I'm not using it. Cool. Click cancel, save yourself $40 a month or whatever the number is. So I think you can only get to that when someone's presenting or you putting together good information and you're allocating it consistently. So one of the things Xero is helpful at doing is saying, hey, this is where you put it last time. And if you put accounts and expenses in the same place, it's really easy when you line them up next to each other to say, what's happened in that month? Let me go and dig in. And hopefully your accountant or whoever's helping you doing your finances is doing that. And they're going, Desmond, why did we spend 20,000 Rand in February on entertainment? And when you go in there and you find your MacBook Pro in there, that's probably not where it should have gone.
This happened. This actually is so funny. This happened this last month. So we were like busy year end and all that. And, our accountants came back to us and they were like, so your personal expenses are through the roof. It's on a loan account. What's going on? Like, you guys know you don't spend personal money off the business. And we're like, no, man, we haven't. What are you talking about? We go in and have a look. And we're like, oh, hold on. Okay, there was all these expenses, and it was like, okay, hold on. We weren't good at classifying this correctly. And it's easy enough you go in, sort it out or whatever else. But those little mistakes come between a point of you having to pay a lot of tax or potentially not having to pay a lot of tax because it's a legitimate business expense.
Yeah, and that's where, like, I think a lot of business owners, they look at the income statement and they go, I'm good. But they forget about the balance sheet, because the balance sheet's where you hide stuff. You throw it in loan accounts or you throw it in suspense accounts.
Yeah.
A lot of people just put it places because then everything's done. And it's kind of like you mow your lawn and you tidy up your stuff and you hide it behind the rubbish bin. And then when everyone's left for the briar, you move the rubbish bin and everything falls back into the corner. You can't really do that with accounting. You should make sense of what you're doing along the way.
Yeah.
So you don't get surprises come February every year when you've got to do your tax returns and suddenly things have changed fundamentally. And what you thought was a great business is not so great.
My dad always used to say the truth will out, and it was a saying that he used my whole life. And when I've opened businesses and whatever else, he always said to us, make sure you run your numbers right. Truth will out. Tax will get you, or someone, it's going to happen. I want to Iridium, your business. I want to find out a bit more about you guys. What do you do? What's your offering? What clients are you guys looking for? If someone's watching this video going, I'm starting a business, or I have a business, I need an accountant. Hold on, this Xero thing sounds great. You guys seem to know what you're doing. What's your business about?
Yeah, so our kind of core offering is an outsourced accounting function. So you wouldn't see that as a month, like an annual. A lot of accountants offer an annual service where you come to me once a year with all your numbers. I'll do your financials and your tax return, and then you'll talk to me in 12 months again. That's not what we focus on. We focus on someone who doesn't want to have an in-house bookkeeper accountant on their team, and they want to outsource that function or that responsibility to a third party. So we step in as a fractional accountant, effectively, stroke financial manager, depending on the scope of the work, and we own that function. So in your business, you know your customers really well. You're going to know exactly what to charge them every month. So your responsibility is to log into Xero, issue the invoices to your customers, and then do your job. Everything else relating to your finances, we do. So one of my team's going to log into your Xero account. As the bank data comes in, showing all the transactions in and out of your bank, one of my team's going to allocate all those transactions. If it's a customer paying, they'll match it off against the invoice. If it's you paying a supplier, they're going to link that payment to a supplier invoice. We're going to ask you to forward all your supplier invoices by email, into Xero or into HubDoc to collect all those documents. And that data is then all going to be digitally sent into your Xero account, and we're going to match everything off. And at the end of the month, when you've paid for a whole lot of things and your references are not so great, we're going to be like, what's happening? What is car? 20,000 Rand. And we're going to get all that information. And once we've finished it all, we're going to then go along and say, cool, we're happy for the month. And we're going to give you a set of management accounts for the previous month and say, this is what we've picked up. Here's our feedback. Here's our commentary on it. Let us know if you have any questions we can discuss further. And we're going to email you on the 20th of the month and say, hey, Desmond, it's time to pay you and your team your salaries. Are there any changes to payroll? What's going on? We're going to give you your pay slips. You're going to either pay your staff or we're going to help you pay your staff. And then we're going to file your EMP 201 with SARS and make sure your PAYE is paid. If it's the end of the month and you're due to pay that, we're going to say, hey, remember, as we spoke last month, you owe 50K to SARS at the end of this month. We're going to file the return and get it done. We're going to do your personal tax, your company prop tax, your financials. We're even going to talk to the Department of Labor and file your COIDA returns to make sure you're compliant. And we're going to register you for UIF. And then every time you need a letter to go and apply for new funding for that asset you need $500,000 in asset finance for, we'll write the letter to say this confirms this turnover or whatever. So everything you need, we'll do. And the way we like to operate is on a fixed fee basis. So there's no surprises. You sign up, you'll commit to a monthly service fee with us, and we're going to charge you that fee every month for the work we do, and everything will be included. So there'll be no extra charges, no surprises, and you almost would see us as like one of your team. So that's how we operate. We also like the ability to get out of bad relationships. If you don't like us, we don't want you to feel like you're locked into a 12-month marriage of inconvenience. If we
100%.
do a
Yeah.
bad job, it's not working, give us 30 days notice, and you must find someone else. And because Xero's cloud-based and all the tools are cloud-based, the ability to move from a poor service provider to another provider has been made a lot easier. So it's not this process where you need to back up a server and download a big file and get all the cabinets of paperwork. I don't have a filing room at my office. Everything is digital. So if someone needs to share something, it's a folder share. It's a few transfers of licenses. So that's kind of our core offering. Then we have a specialist team of guys who do automation. So you want to migrate a whole lot of systems across to different systems. You want to set up a warehouse with all your products that you manufacture. You need more complicated inventory manufacturing tools. We've got a team who'll go and implement that for you, and they'll walk you through that process of configuring everything, setting it up, building out your dashboards, building out whatever metrics you need, because that's a big thing. It's not an uncomplicated system. And then our third division that we have is kind of that CFO, technical financial advisory team, who will come in there with you, and they're going to sit down and they're going to build out your 5-year plan. They're going to look at your business metrics, how you're running your business, what sort of support you need. Maybe you need to send packs to all your investors, on how you're doing, how could you improve, and they're going to be answering those hard questions of you and helping you drive your business forward. That obviously is only suitable to businesses that need that. Maybe you've got 5 businesses in your group and you would love to have pretty reporting that all looks the same, consistent across that. Last year, Xero actually bought one of the products that we really like using called Sift. And Sift is one of those ecosystem products that plugs into Xero, and all your income statement, balance sheet data comes into this tool. But now you can build out group reporting where you can have all 3 companies that you run on the same, pretty dashboard, and you can see how they're all doing, and you can automate that reporting. So rather than exporting it to Excel every month and moving the numbers around, you can have built out exactly the numbers you want to see. And whenever you log in there, it will show you exactly what you need whenever you need it. So those are some of the cool things that, we get to do. We've been helping a lot of overseas companies who've realized they can automate their reporting. Even though they've got entire finance teams, they're like, no one in our team wants to do the reporting. Can you just make it work? And then we end up going in there, solving it for them, give it back to them. And they're like, no, can you just do that every month? Because that worked pretty well. And we pick up work like that helping guys. So it's great to work with lots of SMEs because that's primarily our market. But we also work with some larger firms who realize they can outsource elements of their function. So they'll come along and say, we don't want to do creditors. We don't want to do payroll. We need support with this. We need support here. And it's great to see that we can keep adding value to those businesses, and some of them grow on to be really big companies. I think people often ask us that question, how big, do you support guys? We've got some clients doing a few $100 million, they're large businesses, but we can still add value in the right areas that they need, and we start working with people who are doing a few million and up, because generally speaking, you want an accountant when you're VAT registered or you're about to be, which is that million threshold, which probably should be higher, but that's the number. And when you've got payroll going on, where you've got a few people that need to get paid every month, was now you've got compliance returns that are more regular that need to happen, and we migrate a lot of people from other systems to Xero. So I think like this month, we've got 15 or 20 companies that we're migrating across, from other systems, either no systems or systems that weren't working for them to Xero. And then we're reorganizing and tidying it up and, trying to get on top of what they do.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Simon, I want to thank you so much for coming to chat to me today. And I think you guys were a Xero South African Partner of the Year 2023, and I can see why. Your knowledge and your passion around it is evident. So yeah, I commend you on that. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Lekker, man. Cool. Lekker. Guys, that is the end of the show for now. And if you guys want to get hold of Simon, look in the description. His details are going to be there. We'll push out all these details and whatnot, so you can get hold of him, and hey, maybe you get a couple of clients out this deal and get a few more people transferred over to Xero. Awesome. Great stuff. Lekker. Thank you so much. And that is us. Done and dusted.
Thanks, man. Have a good day.